People all over the world are attracted to cities in the hopes of improving their standard of living, but cities pose their own problems. Thousands fall through the cracks and become trapped in a cycle of poverty, homelessness, crime, and drug addiction. Abandoned buildings become dump sites, attracting further vandalism, and in most cases, they become places that harbor criminals. The Green Camp Gallery project in Umbilo used to be such a property. However, 3 years ago, Xolani Hlongwa and a few friends took initiative, cleaned up the filth, recycled the rubbish, and transformed a neighborhood previously plagued by crime and social disintegration. What was once a derelict, crime-ridden site now houses art exhibitions, movie screenings, and gardening workshops. It is a place where neighborhood kids come to play safely and learn.
Because it is a designed system that is intended to infiltrate its community even if the minds are rejecting it, and be very effective in showing by examples on what is the intention of this project. So Green Camp is a 10-year plan project, and our intention is to have a replicable model that will be taken from here and be adopted into other societies. This 10-year plan is separated into 3 phases. The first 3 years is the first phase. The second phase is 4 to 6 years. The last phase is 6 to 9 years, and the 10th year is evaluation, of course, process. The phases are recycling, rehabilitation, and stimulation. That's our philosophy, and that's what we are implementing, and that's what we are bringing in this city. Even the first phase, which is the first 3 years, for the restless souls and people, we've tried to squeeze this 10-year phase into 3 years also, so we can show people. So even the first phase is separated into 3 years. The first year was about recycling, the second year was about rehabilitation, and the third year is about stimulation, and to repeat that over the period. So the first year, when we talk about recycling, we move into a broken house space visually, but also internal. The internal journey is very important within this project, because the project is there to shift and shape and reshape the internal being. So Green Camp is, at the same time, while we're recycling the outer physical structure, we recycle the inner structures. And then the second year being the rehabilitation process. It means that when we recycle, what happens is that we, first of all, bring back the dignity to our space, because we have taken something out of nothing and we're turning it into something. We bring life into something reclaimed dead, or claimed dead, we reclaim it back to life. That's what happens with recycling. So the second stage of rehabilitation, it becomes very clear to oneself when you've been engaged in recycling that you know what to rehabilitate, both outside but mostly internally. And when we're rehabilitating, then we become healthier and get ready to be able to engage. That is what we call stimulation process. When we engage, it means that we know now what is wrong with our environment or our society. We know what to rehabilitate and what we are rehabilitating. And so when we go out engaging, we know how to engage and what to tackle, because we've gone through this. So that's what the phases of Green Camp are about, and so that is what we are doing now. Now we've finished, we're about to finish our first phase, the first 3 years. We're getting into our second phase, which is rehabilitation in a bigger picture. And then we're going to go on the last phase of stimulation. However, we repeat these stages in smaller scales also with members of the community.
With Durban's rainfall and the amount of public space available, there is much that can be done to address the serious issue of food security. In order to give you an example of how to start your own urban farm, we spoke to Frank Edwards, a nursery owner and permaculture gardener, and asked him about his experience with creating a community garden in a public space.
Why you did it? Why you started it?
Well, it's a long way back to remember, but about 7 years ago, we went out into a piece of useless public open space grass and dug it up to plant vegetables. And in doing it, we planted 126 varieties of plants that increased the biodiversity by 12,000%. And that's a permaculture thing with swales and eucalyptus and everything else. And we made it, and it's been there for 7 years now. It's all over the world, much better examples than ours. We know our mistakes and whatever. And the only thing now is that there's not very much community going on in it. It's a food forest and an indigenous tree and food forest. It's certainly got a huge amount of wildlife and everything else. Well, that is an example that this was the shortest lived guerrilla garden in the history of guerrilla gardens, I think, because it started at 8 o'clock in the morning. It got busted by Johnny the gunman down the truck at 10 o'clock. It was reported to the Mitchell Park authorities where Manisha Arbuckle said too much grass in Durban. She was having a councillors meeting, so she told the councillors what somebody was doing in the park. They said it was community upliftment. So by 4:30 it was council approved. So if anybody wants to make a piece of urban ground in Durban, South Africa, they go along as adopt a spot. There's various things. They get on to the authorities and they say this is what we want to do. And the authorities, the parks and the law enforcement people will consider it and say yes, this is a good idea. And on that, every park, well, not every park, central parks and in very busy areas it doesn't quite work, but in most of the parks in the neighbourhoods, there's basically a formula that we worked out, which is 70% of the grass in parks is just a high maintenance, useless green desert. 30%, and of course this is not fixed, but it's about that. So more than half the grass in the parks is not used in any way, and it's a waste of time and money and everything else that goes into it. The only problem is that people have been taught to, or brought up to think of a park as a grass area, and they're also scared of vagrants and any kind of anything that there's any bushes and trees, which is very unfortunate. I don't have an answer to that one because well, sweet potatoes is a low cover, it's better than grass or other things. But that is a problem. You start off by getting water. And getting water might be getting it somehow from a neighbour or from somebody who's close to there, get access to water. But the nicest and the most fun way to do it is to collect it, harvest it. So you go around the site, ideally on a rainy day, and you see little rivers of rain coming in. Then you dig a hole, put a piece of something into it, or whatever, however you do it, and you collect some water. And once you've got the water, it's a driving force because you've got it. Then you say, now how do we use this? And then the next thing is you just do some swales and sheet mulching, and away you go. And it's all exciting and fun. And particularly catching the water. Don't forget I'm an aquarium, so I've got a few problems about water. Sort of, yeah, and then you've got to keep it going. But sustaining it, that's the problem, because like I'm a driver of this place, but I'm getting old now. So who's going to take it over when I go and sail my boat on the water in the bay, offshore? Well, I've experienced negative attitude because, as I said earlier, people are are sort of conditioned to grass. They just believe that's what a park looks like. So that's a major problem, is to get over that. And people will go to the game reserve and pay huge amounts of money to stay amongst trees and bushes and lions and tigers and frogs. Yeah, but in the urban environment, they've been brought up to think milk comes out of a bottle, and it's just it's over pampered, spoiled rats that live in Sydney. No, there's a bunch of stalwarts that come down and use it all. The funniest thing was when we first started it, we planted a bunch of beetroots, and it was a free garden for anybody to help themselves. But Tina, the lady who helped me start it, she was horrified that somebody had taken all the beetroots. She walked around and clapped her hands and said, "Oh, they've taken all the beetroots." So yes, sometimes people will harvest a whole lot of stuff. Well, it's not. I mean, people eat green pawpaws, they eat green bananas, they eat green. Some of us don't know how to do that even. I don't know how to do it. The cowpeas, when the cowpeas came up, there were quite a few. Some people would take quite a bunch, and I didn't mind. Although I must admit, I've been down there and I've actually cut bananas perhaps a little bit too soon. And I admit, it's to deprive somebody else of getting them. I go there and think I've got to have that. You saw
But
me
not
do,
all the time.
No, not all the time. You saw me do it with the shoo-shoo the other day. I've got to have that. I had to get that before anybody else said, "Can I have that shoo-shoo?"
As it is a repeatable model, we checked out other abandoned spaces in Durban to motivate people to adopt their own spot and start transforming their neighborhoods into healthy, rubbish-free, food-producing spaces.
Just use your voice. You ain't gotta wait as hesitation seals your fate. But please proceed with haste before it gets too late. There's a clock above every living person's head, and when that clock hits zero, that's when every person's dead. The bottom line is that we don't know the time we got, and once you think about it, it stays on your mind a lot. Moving into motion and we're flowing with the sound. Our consciousness is elevated. Look at what we found.